Well, it's entirely possible, for all I know, that this year's Olympics have come to an end. Had I been watching, I'm sure I would have seen a magnificent closing ceremony that would have lifted my heart with pride in our great American athletes and possibly even made me momentarily consider getting a gym membership or at least not eating that last corn chip for the next few minutes. I can only imagine how inspired I would have been by seeing these fine young people take time out from having sex with one another to run around a track or shoot at something or jump up in the air and then come down again. I know that these are the sorts of moments that one always remembers if one watches any of them instead of watching entertaining stuff. But though I couldn't always be there to actually see the Olympics because they were on opposite Keeping Up with the Kardashians, I do want to add my voice to the many who complained about the media's sexist treatment of the female athletes. Just because a young woman in superb physical condition appears on screen wearing nothing but short shorts and a sports bra, and then goes into a gymnastic routine that demonstrates the amazing, heretofore unimagined positions into which she can twist her lithe, shapely, semi-clad body with its soft curves alternating with flat, perfect stretches of muscle, including a pair of thighs powerful enough to crush a lesser man to a death indistinguishable from mindless ecstasy. I totally forgot what I was saying. Oh yeah, just because a beautiful half-dressed girl is contorting on screen is no reason the announcer shouldn't pretend to care about whatever the hell she thinks she's doing. We live in feminist times, and feminism demands complete and absolute hypocrisy, so women don't find out that nobody really cares about women's sports, unless the women happen to be dancing around like that amazing Australian hurdle babe whom I can't even think about if I want to continue speaking coherently. To fight this injustice, if I was talking about an injustice, I can't remember now. I'm still thinking about that Australian hurdler. But anyway, assuming I was talking about some sort of injustice, the New York Times, a former newspaper, wrote an article about the sexist Olympics coverage in which they interviewed Cambridge University researcher Sarah Greaves for some reason. Ms. Greaves says that despite the fact that women make up some 45% of athletes competing, the word man has generally been used roughly 3 times as much as the word woman in sports-related coverage. Some examples of this usage include, man, these women's sports are boring, and hey man, while you're up, could you change the channel? But as the Olympics draw to a close, assuming they're over, and if there's a God in heaven, they have to be over sometime, I think we can all agree that the performance of the young, scantily clad women in Rio or wherever the hell they were would have been a triumph for female equality if anyone had been paying attention. If you don't believe me, here's a clip. It may be too late for a trigger warning, but trigger warning, I'm Andrew Klavan, and this is The Andrew Klavan Show. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I take all of that back and I apologize. It's Mailbag Day. And the FBI have found 15,000 more email questions, and we're going to answer all of them. But unfortunately for you, that if you're watching on Facebook and YouTube, that comes in the second half of the show, so you will miss it unless you come over to the Daily Wire, or you can download us from iTunes or SoundCloud. And it's too late to subscribe for this week's mailbag, but not too late to subscribe for next week's mailbag. You get 30 days for free, during which, in those 30 days, you can ask free questions, and then it's just a lousy $8 a month. You can, come on, really, a lousy $8 a month, and then you can watch the show in its entirety and be part of the show through the mailbag. Also, if you would like to pre-order my memoir, The Great Good Thing, A Secular Jew Comes to Faith in Christ, you can send the receipt to me at aclavan@dailywire.com, and I will sign a sticker that you can put inside the book. But whether it's signed or not, you will like this book. I promise you, you will like this book. The Great Good Thing, A Secular Jew Comes to Faith in Christ. So I'm reading the news yesterday and watching the news about Hillary Clinton, and I'm thinking like, what? What? My voice keeps getting higher and higher. I was like, by the end of it, I was just going, what? You won't even be able to hear it. So more than half of the people outside the government who met with Hillary Clinton while she was Secretary of State gave money, either personally or through companies or groups, to the Clinton Foundation. This is the Associated Press. More than half of the people who were not government people, so these are the meetings that are not with direct government people, more than half of them were donors to the Clinton Foundation, okay? At least 85 of 154 people from private interests who met or had phone conversations scheduled with Clinton while she led the State Department donated to her family charity or pledged commitments to its international programs, according to a review of State Department calendars released so far to the Associated Press. Combined, the 85 donors contributed as much as $156 million. At least 40 donated more than $100,000 each, and 20 gave more than $1 million. Okay. By the way, by the way, these documents that showed this, the AP was after them for 3 years. Okay. They filed for them for 3 years. They had to sue the State Department last year in federal court before they turned them over. Okay. So this is like, I mean, so everybody. And by the way, that's one story. And then in the Wall Street Journal is while she was Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton hosted a dinner involving Clinton Foundation donors, including a Ukrainian businessman who had given money to the organization and who had retained a lobbyist to arrange State Department meetings. The dinner, attended by Viktor Pinchuk 4 years ago, was mentioned in a new batch of State Department emails obtained by the conservative group Citizens United through public records requests. So they're just extracting. It's like pulling teeth, extracting these things out, and more. You know, you've now probably keep hearing the phrase quid pro quo. And not many people know this, but we have here at the Daily Wire an entire room full of Latin scholars, because I write my opening monologues in Latin and then they translate them into English, of course. And so, many of you might keep hearing this word and think, what is quid pro quo? Well, I have to be honest, I always thought quid pro quo meant this for that. And if you look in Wikipedia, that is one of the definitions they give. But consulting our room full of Latin scholars, I'm told that it means something for something, okay? And so the Clinton people keep screaming, this is not quid pro quo, because they didn't get anything except access. Except you try getting access with the State Department. You try getting invited to dinner without handing. Of course it was a quid pro quo. I mean, it's just that we have this standard that it's somehow okay to pay for access. It's okay to pay to play. And it's not. This is corruption. So Donald Trump, of course, is asking for a special prosecutor. That's never going to happen. That's just something he has to do. Here is Brian Fallon, Clinton's press secretary, basically, who is striking back against, he's trying to turn this back on Trump.
This is an absurd call by Donald Trump. It is an act of desperation on his campaign, given the turmoil that we've seen from his campaign in recent weeks. And if you believe media reports, the Justice Department already declined to look into any of these allegations related to the Clinton Foundation. And there's two important things to bear in mind here, Kristen. Number one, the Clinton Foundation is a charity. It is a world-class philanthropy. Based on its work, you have 11.5 million people in the developing world that have gained access to HIV/AIDS drugs. The cost of malaria drugs has gone down 80 to 90%. And the Clintons do not personally draw a salary or profit from the work of the foundation. By contrast, Donald Trump, you have a web of business connections that were exposed in the New York Times this weekend. He owes debt to countries like China to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars. He has said as president he's going to stand up to China. How can he do that when his own personal businesses owe money to them? Donald Trump has to come clean about his own business dealings, explain whether he will divest his holdings. These are far more serious questions than exist with a charity that pays the Clintons no money.
Okay, that a lot of that is nonsense, but just giving him a chance to say what he says. Yesterday we had Trump calling for the special prosecutor. This is so far no problem. No problem having their spokesman come out and defend her. I have no problem with that. This is the way it works. We hear him, we listen to that. We hear Trump, we listen to that. Okay. And let's just look at James Carville, though. Why James Carville is invited anywhere? I mean, why this guy is invited anywhere? I mean, he is just, he should be in disgrace for just the way he treated the women that Bill Clinton abused. But let's just listen to his hilarious defense that this is a charitable foundation.
What the Clinton Foundation does, it takes money from rich people and gives it to poor people.
But should they?
Most people think that's a pretty good idea.
Should they have done that from the beginning, though? We're not going to take foreign money.
If you ask me, as a political advisor, of course. If you ask me as a human being, I'm not too sure.
Joe,
as a human being, I think that money does an enormous amount of good. From a strictly political standpoint, if my sixth grade teacher, Mother Robert, the assistant St. Joe's, is right, somebody's going to hell over this. because somebody, and I'm saying here, or somewhere, this is saving people's lives. And there's nothing, I think, again,
well,
very proud of it.
I wish I could say what the word I want to say. I'll just say that's BS.
Well, now here's my question. James Carville says that as a political person, yes, they probably, this was not a good idea, but as a human being, he thinks it was great. Where does James Carville get off commenting as a human being? That's like me saying, as a woman, I'd like to express my opinion. I mean, what the hell? When did he become a human being? And then somebody's going to help. Let me read you this from National Review Online. It's important to keep in mind that what the Clinton Foundation mainly does. It does precious little in the way of actual philanthropy. $9 million worth out of $140 million in revenue in 2013 went to charities. So all this stuff about HIV, AIDS, when you listen carefully to what they're saying they negotiated a good deal to get AIDS. Pardon me, I'm starting to sound like Hillary Clinton myself. I'm just going to keel over at some point. And I want everybody here to keep saying, what do you mean you're questioning his health? That's disgusting to question something. They're just carrying my body out and it'll be fine. All right. So they're spending $9 million out of $140 million in revenue for 2013. And they keep saying, we got these deals for HIV/AIDS. So they negotiated a deal for HIV/AIDS, and people got it a little cheaper. But that's not money coming out of this stash. Instead, it spends almost all of its money on salaries and travel expenses for various Clintons, including Chelsea Clinton, now its vice chairman. But remember, she's off limits because we don't attack children. Democratic allies, toadies, flunkies, hangers-on, and assorted minions all get money. It is a full employment sinecure program for friends and family of the Clinton political operation and very little more. So this is corruption. I mean, this is insane level of corruption. Now I want you to listen to how Andrea Mitchell on NBC reported this. Just see if you can tell why I'm playing this, all right?
Tonight, the Clinton campaign responding, saying the story relies on utterly flawed data. It cherry-picked a limited subset of Secretary Clinton's schedule. It comes after questions over whether donors got special access. In one email, Foundation official Douglas Band writes Clinton aide Huma Abedin for a meeting with the Crown Prince of Bahrain, also a big donor, noting good friend of ours. A few days later, Abedin arranges the meeting after he goes through diplomatic channels. This would not necessarily violate laws or ethics agreements the Clintons signed.
Okay, did you hear anything about that this might be corruption? No, I mean she's doing a cover up on the news. She's covering up for on the news. And if you think it's just the news, see this. Even if it were just the news, even if it were just these Democrat hacks who are the ABC, CBS, and NBC reporters, the people who run their news departments, even if it were just those Democrat supporters covering up for it, it's also the entertainment industry. So Colbert is on, and he does a routine where he has the thingometer, the thingometer. Is it a thing or is it not a thing? And he looks into, is it a thing that anything she was doing? It's barely even humor. I mean, it's amusing. It's not really funny. It's barely even humor. It's just free ad space. And it's more than that because, everybody talks about how Trump gets all this free media, but it's all the media is Clinton media. All the media is Clinton media. So anything he gets, he can only get by standing on his head and whistling Dixie, the crazy stuff that he does. So he's only going to get it by being controversial. She is getting media all the time. And the thing about it is this guy, I mean, Colbert is flopping terribly, and all of Hollywood, on the Hollywood Reporter, he has the cover. It's all about how he's finding his way. He's coming, and his interview is like, oh, I cared. Maybe I care too much. Maybe I'm, it's like, because you can see him. You can see how desperate he looks. It's not funny. It's just selling a point of view. Plus, it makes you feel that if you want to be part of the Hollywood inset, you have to take this point of view. I mean, this is the kind of thing that Trump's new spokesman, what's her name, Kellyanne Conway, that she's saying that this is all, people don't want to come out and say they're for Trump, especially if they're educated, because it looks bad. It's a social thing. And she believes that there's this undercover ground support. She's taking polls offline. Listen to this. She says when you stop taking polls on the phone, people admit they're really for Trump.
Donald Trump performs consistently better in online polling, where a human being is not talking to another human being about what he or she may do in the election.
Why is that, do you think?
It's because it's become socially desirable, especially if you're a college-educated person in the United States of America, to say that you're against Donald Trump. The hidden Trump vote in this country is a very significant proposition.
Have you been able to put a number on that?
Yes.
Group. What do you think that is?
I can't discuss it.
Oh, come on.
No, it's a project we're doing internally. I call it the undercover Trump voter, but it's real.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not buying it. But it is true that they create this atmosphere in which, if you want to be part of the fun set, the people who laugh, the people who are intellectual, the people who sneer at their inferiors, you are not going to vote for Donald Trump. It's a fog of lies, this empire of lies that she rules. Clinton rules. Oh, I got to say goodbye to the Facebook people. Stick with us for the mailbag. We'll be coming up. It'll be coming up.